Such heroic nonsense.
Hey Transformers fans, back to Cybertron again thanks to the latest Patreon special missions request, courtesy of Krishna Murja. I've gone into the history of some of the beloved 80s toy lines by year, but Krishna had the great idea of focusing on one of those loved, or loathed, characters throughout the years in their different incarnations.
Hello there!
Oh no, please, not him!
I'm Megatron. What's your name?
I'm Michael Mercer.
Silence!
This again. I already told you it's not much of a video if I can't...
Silence! You will do exactly as I say.
I'm trying to do a retrospective on the guy and he's telling me to shut up again.
It's just such ignorance which forever relegates you to the ranks of underlings.
Fine, I'll just sit here and not say anything. Then we'll see how well this all turns out.
You're bluffing, Autobot!
Well, I guess I can't really do that now, can I?
Precisely!
Okay, Megatron. You're in the driver's seat. I'll wait until you're good and ready.
Somehow I felt you would.
It's just, people were really expecting some, history, facts, information.
I am not concerned with technicalities.
There's power in it for you.
Describe more fully.
Energon cubes?
I must have it.
You will, if you just let me do this uninterrupted. Do we have a deal?
We're all in this together now.
For now.
What?
Never mind. Drink up. Okay, ready to proceed?
Ah, those were the good old days back on Cybertron.
Okay, let's do this quick while he's inebriated. Taking a look at the history of the Decepticon with no known weaknesses, the mighty Megatron.
You remembered who I am.
And so did Big Bad Toy Store.
A time machine.
Yes, it sort of is, stocked with pages and pages of Megatron's incarnations throughout the years.
I plan to use it to travel to the past.
If you do, be sure to click on the link in the show notes below. As with all Year 1 Transformers, Megatron's roots go back to Japan.
Back to the beginning of time.
Which was 1983, when he was part of Takara's micro-change line in the form of a Walther P-38, alongside the Smith & Wesson 44 Magnum, and the 1910 Browning. 2 versions were released in Japan, a black and brown version with no attachments, and the version that would become the leader of the Decepticons the following year, the Uncle version in chrome with attachments. When it came time to choose a leader to oppose the heroic Optimus Prime, what better choice was there than a handgun? Making Megatron the only first-year Transformer whose alt mode was a weapon itself. His first appearance in animation, as well as the early Marvel Comics, revealed a look a bit different than how he'd end up on the Sunbow animated series and box art. And was, interestingly enough, based on the prototype for the Microman version, rather than the finalized toy.
You incompetent fools!
Check out the head and the cannon. If you've ever wondered why the toy version of Megatron's barrel is by his hip, but the animated version has the barrel on the back, it's because that's how the prototype was designed. And they just stuck with it. Is it just me, or does that prototype look 1,000 times better in robot mode than the final toy version did? He looks more blocky and proportionate with 84 Optimus to me. But authentic alt modes took priority for Takara, which hindered some of the robot modes. Now for the name. How did the moniker of Megatron come about? Well, he wasn't actually the first robot in Marvel Comics to be called that.
What?
No, really. A robot named Megatron had appeared in issue 18 of Shogun Warriors in 1980.
Nonsense!
Wait, Primal?
Well, that's just prime.
As with G.I. Joe, Hasbro worked closely with Marvel Comics to create these Cybertronian characters and their backstory. And Marvel Transformers comic scribe Bob Budiansky deserves the credit for naming the leader of the Decepticons, creating an amalgamation of the words megaton, which is a unit used to measure the explosive power of a nuclear weapon, and electronic.
I renamed, or came up with names for 24 out of 26 of the characters. Optimus Prime was a name that we kept from the previous writer, and one of the other names we kept. And I named all the other ones that I had to rename, or came up with new names for the ones that he hadn't gotten to yet, perhaps, and came up with the character profiles. So going back to your original question, like how did I come up with all these different personalities? I don't know. I was just trying to plug things in where I thought they fit. Like, this guy's a jet, he's a bad guy. This guy's an ambulance, he's a good guy. I was trying to find references in my vast media, popular culture knowledge of the time was. Whatever I could pull out of my brain.
The name was initially rejected by Hasbro, though, because the nuclear bomb connotation made the character sound dangerous and scary and evil? Upon further reflection, the name was deemed appropriate, and Megatron was born. Although he would become the maniacal tyrant we all know and love/hate, Bob Budiansky added an aspect to the character that seems to have been completely forgotten. His quote reads, "Peace through tyranny." Peace is not a term that's ever associated with Megatron, other than the other spelling of peace.
Soon you will have a new leader to piece your planet back together.
He, as well as his later incarnations, seem to have a never-ending lust for war, and so this early tech specs quote, his first quote, in fact, is a peculiar anomaly. When developing a supervillain to balance out a superhero, the villain is usually matched up almost equally to provide for an interesting contest.
Equalize this!
Almost equally, because in the end, the good guy still has to win. Megatron was revolutionary in the idea that the main villain was possibly even more powerful than his counterpart.
At last, Prime! This is your finish!
His tech spec readings are maxed out as it relates to strength and intelligence, and his firepower trounces Prime's.
Never knew he was that strong.
Even more foreboding is the final line of Megatron's bio, a personal favorite of mine in any Transformers literature. No known weakness. The toy was released in 1984 and was almost identical to the Takara Uncle version from the year before.
A perfect replica down to the last transistor. But there is one important difference.
The chrome sword was omitted, not that big a deal, but the major difference was that the shooting plastic pellet feature was gutted. That was a big deal because in the 80s, kids in North America still generally had the common sense to not shoot each other or themselves in the eye with firing toy guns.
I warn you, stay well back.
For the Sunbow animated series, a talent was needed that matched Megatron's mighty tech specs. Whose voice could possibly be fitting for such an imposing, invulnerable, larger-than-life character?
It's mine!
Simply the best. Frank Welker landed the role and, much like Peter Cullen's approach to Optimus Prime, decided to take an atypical approach to playing a seemingly typical tyrant. Rather than a loud, powerful, booming voice, Frank decided to go old, weary, like butter scraped over too much bread. Pained and strained, Welker's vocals as Megatron made the Decepticon commander sound not just sinister, but well-traveled and wise.
I was onto your little scheme from the start!
Albeit still totally misguided. Throughout his 2 seasons on the Sunbow series, Megatron concocted scheme after scheme to destroy the Autobots and rob Earth of its natural resources.
I want your coal, your oil, your gas, electricity, all of it!
While fending off the treacherous attempts of Starscream at usurping his power.
Extinction to all traitors!
His origin on the cartoon is revealed in the Season 3 episode 5 Faces of Darkness Part 4, where we're shown a clip of the Constructicons creating him.
Thus one fateful night, far below the city, Megatron was born.
Which contradicts events in The Secret of Omega Supreme, where Megatron captures and reprograms the Constructicons to become evil Decepticons. But we wouldn't be such huge fans if we had nothing to nitpick, right?
Exactly!
Over on the Marvel series, Megatron began as a gladiator from the Cybertronian city of Tarn, who is credited as developing the art of transformation. The exodus from Cybertron and crash landing on Earth is the same as the cartoon, but that's where Megatron's story sharply deviates.
I give the orders here, Starscream!
Not for long. In the comic, Megatron is overthrown as leader of the Decepticons by Shockwave in issue 5, and the two would battle for supremacy of the Decepticons until Optimus Prime's death in the comic. Pulling a Joker after losing his Batman, Megatron has an existential crisis upon learning of the death of the Yang to his Yin.
You have such a strong sense of honor.
And seemingly perishes in a space bridge explosion. But just like in the cartoon, one thing Megatron can't do well is stay dead for any length of time.
I will be avenged.
And he repeatedly resurfaces throughout the run of the comic. Megatron's weakness was finally revealed 2 years after his debut in the Transformers animated movie in 1986. Turns out if you smash him enough, he'll slow down. A bit. After an epic duel that claimed the life of Optimus Prime, for a while, Megatron is tossed out into space by his old nuisance Starscream and left for dead. Until he's come across by Unicron, the giant planet-eating planet with the power to recreate Transformers into new, larger, battery-powered versions.
Galvatron transforms from laser cannon to fighting robot.
Megatron was reformatted into
Galvatron.
mainly as a way of moving away from the realistic-looking handgun alt mode, due to the changing laws in North America, to something more science fiction looking. Although he was radically redesigned, a different color scheme, and the toy was much bigger, the use of an enormous arm cannon still evoked the essence of Megatron. And another link to his past self was that after the movie, where the incomparable Leonard Nimoy stepped in to portray Galvatron, once the series resumed, so did Frank Welker's work as the voice of the metallic miscreant, now with a more youthful, vibrant, and crazed take.
Decepticons! Your leader has returned!
Galvatron wasn't the only toy released of the Decepticon leader that year, though. For fans wanting more Megs in '86, Takara released a special Goodbye Megatron reissue set packed with Starscream,
Parting is such sweet sorrow!
as well as a soft, rubber-like decoy figure, which, oddly, included the sword his Japanese version had only ever included, as well as the blaster that had never been featured on the show, but no arm cannon. Galvatron would rule over the Decepticons for the remainder of the Sunbow animated series, and made some special appearances in the Marvel comic as well, thanks to time travel.
Long live Galvatron!
But his purple reign of terror wouldn't last long. The original chromed creep would return to toy shelves in 1990 as an action master. Transformers that don't transform.
That is ridiculous!
Finally, something we can agree on.
That's absurd, you fool!
I knew it wouldn't last long. A 3 3/4-inch figure was released with the transforming Neutro Fusion Tank. For those wondering what happened to Galvatron and how the Mighty One was able to revert back to his original form, you'd get no enlightenment from the tech spec bio. A bio written by Megatron himself was rejected for being too graphic.
I have written a brilliant scenario of Autobot destruction.
Transformers would die a slow, painful death that year.
We failed before through no fault of mine.
But just like Megatron, wouldn't stay dead for long.
We shall rise again.
Transformers was reborn as G2, or Generation 2, in 1993. Hasbro once again sought the help of Marvel to breathe life into the robots in disguise, and Megatron paved the way by appearing in G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, issue 138. You have to remember that in '93, crossovers weren't as common an occurrence as they are today, so to see Megatron appear from a dead brand, and to be illustrated by the same artists, Andrew Wildman and Stephen Baskerville, who had last drawn him in the Transformers comic, was absolutely mind-blowing.
I don't believe it.
Not one to linger in a ruined body.
Wait, I still function.
Megatron once again received an upgrade in the following issue when Cobra constructed a new green tank alt mode. The electronic aspect of the Galvatron toy was carried over, and the tank featured electronic rolling sounds when pressed down.
Megatron, the evil Decepticon leader, crushes Prime with power sound treads.
And as a way of making penance for removing the firing feature of the '84 Megatron toy gun,
You filthy retro rats!
this tank could fire spring-loaded missiles, accompanied by an electronic firing sound as well.
With power arm lasers and lock and load super sound cannon. Listen to the voice of doom.
For those who couldn't afford the deluxe electronic version, a Hero Class version was released the following year in '94.
Get ready for combat! Megatron transforms from combat tank into evil combat robot. Transformers!
Basically a downscaled version in purple, and with a bellows-operated air launcher instead of the electronic one. A couple of head-scratching releases happened over the next few years. Hasbro had acquired the rival GoBots license and released a Megatron GoBot.
That's mutiny!
In '95, that was decidedly very un-Megatron.
And the penalty for mutiny is termination!
And an unreleased G2 mold of a Decepticon jet was released in '97 as Megatron, also very un-Megatron-like. In 2000, the black and brown Uncle version was reissued by eHobby in Japan, which had no qualms about releasing toy guns unlike North America, and various PVC, Choro-Q, and miniature versions would be released over the following several years. And Optimus and Megatron got really close in 2005. No, not a 2-pack.
Much closer than that!
The truly bizarre Reverse Convoy was a blue recolor of the Hero Class Megatron, but had a head that featured both Megatron and Optimus Prime's faces.
You lack even Prime's courage!
Megatron got the Masterpiece treatment in 2007 with... MPO5.
No!
Ironically, not a masterpiece.
What is that?
A disaster piece. And a look back at what Megatron looked like before coming to Earth was revealed with the Titanium War Within rendition of Megatron. Takara redeemed themselves in the Masterpiece department though in 2017 with MP36, a smaller but much sturdier and more posable rendition that included battle-damaged parts to swap out to recreate his look in Transformers the movie after being thumped by Optimus. You get what you pay for though, and these vast improvements commanded several ruby crystals from Burma, unless you opted for one of the more affordable KO versions, which looked just as nice on a shelf from several feet away.
I know!
The name Megatron would be bestowed upon several other commanders of the Decepticon forces over the years in honor of their legendary leader, such as the Scheming T-Rex in Beast Wars,
Yes.
the Six Changer from Robots in Disguise,
Megatron Jet Mode!
the Freak from the Unicron trilogy,
You are a freak.
the delusional self-professed hero from Transformers Animated.
Decepticons, transform and rise up!
The twisted equal rights advocate from Cyberverse.
I fight for you!
The Michael Bayverse live-action mess, which at least saw the return of simply the best, Frank Welker, to the role of Galvatron and Megatron.
Well, they were the same guy.
With laws prohibiting the sale of realistic-looking guns being sold as toys in North America, a transforming G1 version of Megatron would never again grace store shelves. But no such laws exist in Japan, so there have been several reissues, one of which included the energy mace he used to battle Optimus Prime on Sherman Dam in More Than Meets the Eye Part 2. Regardless of what he transforms into and what his true motives are, Megatron is a character that has and will continue to resonate throughout history thanks to Takara, Frank Welker, and Bob Budiansky's contributions to the Ultimate Hero's dubious,
Highly dubious
nemesis, undoubtedly one of toy history's greatest supervillains.
I haven't even started!
Oh boy. Thanks to Krishna for the request, and the entire Patreon tribe for continuing to support the channel. If you enjoyed this video, give it a share on your Facebook, Twitter, Chat, Snap, Tap, Chat, or whatever the heck the kids are using today. I can't keep up. Big thanks to the following Transformer sites that provided invaluable data to make this video a reality.
Quickly!
Okay. Botch's Transformers Box Art Archive, which has scans of not only all of the G1 box art, but the tech spec bios as well. TFU.info, the world's longest running online Transformers archive with a plethora of information on release years, accessories, variations, and more. Fellow Canuck, Angry Canadian Decepticon, Transformers Universe, Cybertron with an S.
Faster!
Okay, and Transformers Wiki, the Cybertronian Wikipedia, jam-packed with as much wisdom of the ages as the Autobot matrix of leadership. Links to each of these sites is listed in the show notes below. Leave a Megatron thought in the underneath spot, and to join the tribe, hit subscribe.
It's over, Prime.
And tap that chime to be reminded each time a new video goes up.
You're finished!
Till next time, my friends.
Extinction to all traitors!